We are in a zone that very few Americans have ever experienced, historically speaking. So usually one candidate or the other emerges, and not this time. So the pundits don't know. I've made my prediction, Donald Trump, and it was based on voter registration. I'm sticking to that, but I could be wrong. I mean, I was wrong in 22, you know that. But it looks to me like if I had to bet, and I'm not betting, that I would have to go with that. This time tomorrow, California, you got to just take it out of the equation because they just can't count their votes out there. But we should have a pretty good idea. On Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we should have a pretty good idea. Keep your eye on New Hampshire. If it's tight in New Hampshire, Trump will probably win then. Because New Hampshire, very independent-minded state, regular folks. No, not a lot of urban angst, and not a lot of unions, not a lot of any of that. Keep your eye on there. All right, let's go to Jess, Green Acres, Florida. Jess says, will Kamala Harris really be able to pack the Supreme Court? Only if Congress, both houses, go Democrat. And then how it would work, Jess, would be they'd introduce a new law that in 2025, for example, that's when the law will be introduced, the Supreme Court goes from 9 justices to 15, 12, whatever the Democrats decide. The danger of this is that you have politicking to get on the court. Right now, you have a little bit of that, but not a lot. And the process to confirm in the Senate would be brutal because the Republicans try to keep all the liberals out and the Democrats keep all the conservatives out. It's just throw the court at the chaos. That is what the progressive movement wants. And Kamala Harris is the spear point. They want a chaotic economy so the government can step in and calm everything down. We'll run the economy from Washington. Want to control the judicial system. And you saw how that worked against Trump. They want to do that across the board. And to get rid of the Supreme Court, much, much easier. So this is why I say, if you're going to vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for a totally different America. The odds are that will not happen. All my sources say Republicans will win the Senate. And Sherrod Brown may go down in Ohio. That would be a big time situation. The Senate then would become a bulwark against craziness from a President Harris and a progressive handlers. Okay, let's go to Robert, Georgetown, Texas. Donald Trump wins the election and you are now his most trusted aide. He's talking about me. What would you recommend as Chief Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, Secretary of Homeland Security? Well, Homeland Security is going to go to Ramaswamy. I believe he's already been promised that. So that's that. Secretary of State, I'd probably go with Senator Rubio. Secretary of Defense, probably Mike Pompeo. I get the generals out of it because the generals, Trump had a lot of problem with the Pentagon. I'm not sure why. I'd have to investigate it. But I'd probably go civilian. Like Donald Rumsfeld, who wasn't the greatest Secretary of Defense, but somebody like that. So I get Pompeo in there. I don't know about Attorney General. I'd rather see a younger person who's got a very good record prosecuting federal cases. Trump will probably appoint a crony, like he did the first time around, which never worked out for him. I'd go for skill level, but I don't have a name. Good question, though. Diane, Westminster, Maryland. If Donald Trump wins the election, will we see a peaceful transfer of power? To speculate otherwise, as I said on News Nation tonight with Leland Vittert, is irresponsible. If you're predicting violence in any way, shape, or form stemming from this election, that's an irresponsible stance to take. Now, it could happen, but predicting it, no. So I'm going to assume whoever wins the election will act responsibly, and so will voters across the country. And if they don't, then they got to be held accountable. Richard from Crowley, Texas. As a voter and an adult that prefers to make my own choices based on my own research, can you explain what is the importance of having endorsements of unions, celebrities, etc.? None of that influenced whom I vote for, but it seems to be a big deal for those running for political office. So I'm going to generalize now. The celebrity endorsements are for low information voters who idolize singers and actors and sports people. They don't know much. What's the song? Don't know much about history. Okay. Herman's Hermit sang it. Simon and Garfunkel. Or was it just Garfunkel? But anyway, there are people who are impressed by celebrity. So just a few moments ago, Joe Rogan, who's a celebrity on the internet, he endorsed Trump. Trump's happy to get that endorsement. Why? I don't know. Rogan's a wrestling guy. I don't even know much about him. It isn't like me, and that's fine. He's not alone. But he endorsed Trump. And then Megyn Kelly went out in the Trump rally and endorsed him. Okay. Not going to mean anything to me as a voter? No, because I know what's going on. I know policy back and forth, which is why you're listening to me tonight. But the low information voter, I think that term was coined by Rush Limbaugh, the late Rush Limbaugh. They don't know much, and they're insecure about it. So if somebody says, I like this person, might gonna. Now the union's a different story. So working people, I'm in a union, AFTRA, SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and politically they're as far left as you can get. And I don't really deal with them on that level. But the union protects my pension. It does some good things. All right, if I have a job someplace, the minimum amount of money and safety conditions and all of that. So the union is a little bit different. That's a working class thing. Eric is in Dallas, Texas, where I used to live, up in Richardson. If Donald Trump wins, what do you think will be his biggest challenge this time around? Get the inflation prices down. And he's got a plan. So he harvests more oil. Oil gets cheaper in the USA. Truckers and such don't have to pay as much, and it brings prices down. There are going to be a lot of companies that don't want to bring prices down. Trump's got to be prepared for that. Got to be prepared to say, look, if your costs are less, then you got to reflect the market. But it's really the people that will make that call. It's hard for the government to control wages and prices. A bunch of presidents tried it, never works. It's the folks who've got to do it. But Trump's got a plan to bring it down. But I know a lot of these companies are not going to want to drop their prices. A lot of restaurants not going to want to drop them. And they're going to go look at my insurance costs, look at my this. Insurance companies aren't going to drop their premium costs. They're not. Thank you, Joe Biden. Okay, so we're going to have to pay more for the rest of our lives to protect our cars and our homes. Richard, Havertown, Pennsylvania. Does abortion violate the civil rights of the unborn? The unborn don't have any civil rights. You got to be a person on American soil. Can't be in the womb. Now, the founding fathers never in a million years thought about this, because abortion back then was a heinous crime. Nobody would ever publicly admit to it. I mean, you could be hanged for doing it in the 18th and 17th centuries. And so it wasn't anywhere on their radar screen at all. But the law, Constitution, is if you are a person standing on American soil, whether you are 2 months old and crawling or 99 and in a wheelchair, then you have constitutional protections. Nothing about the unborn. Wendy, Maples Falls, Washington. What is Trump Vance's position on Israel, Gaza? They don't have a position because nobody does. What's the position on Israel, Gaza? Israel's got to be able to defend itself, right? Every American politician has to say that, although the leftists, the progressives, don't really believe it. They hate Israel, but they have to say it. Gaza, there's no government in Gaza. So two-party solutions, when you hear Chuck Schumer and the other morons say that, it's no two parties. It's only one party, Israel. That's a country, functioning government. Gaza has no functioning government. Either does the West Bank. Okay? There's the Palestinian Authority. They have no power. The terrorists run it. Palestinian Authority is exactly what Hamas and Hezbollah tell them to do. Folks have no power. Why anybody would live there is way beyond me. I know they're poor. I know it's hard to get out, but there are a lot of Palestinians who have gotten out. So my message to them is get out. It's never going to get any better over there. Ever. Leave. Donna, Binghamton, New York. What happens to the money given to these candidates after the election is over? They get to keep it for political purposes. Can't buy a condo for yourself, can't buy a car, can't do any of that. But there's a lot of things you can do with the money. But it also has to tie into your political career. All right, so it stays in the account. Bill, Portola Hills, California. I've read 8 of your killing books so far. I just finished Confronting the Presidents. There was a line that struck me at the top of 349. Say no more. That is a mistake. Okay? It says that George H.W. Bush was a competitor in 1980. He was not to Ronald Reagan. It was Gerald Ford. Now, the only reason I threw this question is to explain, because so many of you have been so kind to buy my killing books and all books before that, and Confronting the President is an enormous success. So I'm the best-selling author, nonfiction, on earth, which is pretty good. Okay, for a kid from Levittown, the nuns never thought I would read a book rather than write a book. So when I submit a manuscript, it's 100,000 words. That's the average. And sometimes when you're typing and when you're doing things, you make a mistake. But the publisher hires what they call fact checkers to read every page and make sure the typos are cleaned up and a mistake would be cleaned up. Fact checker blew it. Does it make me crazy? Yes, it does. Because all that person is paid to do is to read the book and pick out any errors. Because there inevitably are going to be errors. On 100,000 words, you're going to have errors. Not an excuse. It was a dumb error. I take full responsibility. But if that fact checker were here, I'd be hitting them with the script. Okay? Do your job. Ugh. All right, back to the election. Barbara, Lake Oswego, Oregon, right outside of Portland. Beautiful town. Many voters want the $25,000 for first-time home buyers. Please explain to your viewers how that could not work. In order to get $25,000 in cash from the federal government, Congress would have to pass a law, because Congress is in charge of the budget. So it's not like Kamala Harris can wave a magic wand and say, hey, I want the Treasury to send every first-time homebuyer a $25,000 check. You saw that with Biden. Biden goes, forgiving all debt. Supreme Court says, no, you're not. And knocked it out immediately. Okay? Biden could only forgive the debts if you borrowed from the federal government, because he has sway over that. Private debts, he can't do it. So here, Harris runs around $25,000. I don't even think she knows. I don't think she's smart enough to know. And I could be desperately wrong, and that could be a terrible, cheap shot. But it's my opinion, she doesn't even know how the process works. Now, even if Congress passed that law, said $25,000 all first-time homebuyers, it's unconstitutional because it isn't equal justice under the law. Okay? We're all to be treated equally under the law. This is a new law. And we're not being treated equally. Because somebody who bought a condo 15 years ago and sold it's not a first-time home buyer. Can't get to 25K. You're excluding most Americans from the taxpayer largesse. Word of the day. You see? So it's never gonna happen. Number one, Congress would never pass it. I don't think a Democratic Congress would pass it because it would be so devastating to the national debt. And the Supreme Court was saying, you can't do this. Because if you could, Barbara, if Congress and the president could earmark taxpayer money for specialized groups, you don't have equal justice under the law. You have special groups getting taxpayer money and everybody else doesn't. That's not what we are here. It all stemmed from the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal and be treated equally by the federal government. If you ask that question, Barbara, to 99 pundits, 98 of them would not know how to answer it. But this is what I do. Brian Metairie, Louisiana, outside of New Orleans. I always wonder whether I've been to Metairie. All right. And I always wonder, am I saying this right? But anyway, it's a suburb of New Orleans. How do you explain or elucidate? Word of the day. Brian has that in parentheses, word of the day. Many Americans do not believe there is a border crisis or think inflation has not been a problem. Look, people believe what they want to believe. You know, I mean, I always come back to that, but it's absolutely true. You know, I don't have time for these people, myself. I don't have time to convince them or cajole them or do any of that stuff. If somebody says, oh, we don't have a border problem, I go, have a nice day. That's it. So there's reality, and then there's the other. And the people who live in the other, and it's a growing number because of this, you can create your own fantasy world right here. My message of the day tomorrow deals with that and how it impacts our voting. You can create whatever world you want right here. You don't have to deal with the real world anymore. A lot of people have taken that option. Rich from San Diego. Trump wins. What political future position do you see for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Well, Walz will go back to being governor of Minnesota. I don't know what Harris will do. I think she'll pop up on The View. And I'm not saying that facetiously. Very good on camera. If you saw on Saturday Night Live, it's very good. She knows how to do that. So I see her in the entertainment industry for a while. And then if something opened up, maybe she gives it another shot or whatever. But she can make big money in entertainment. Hollywood pinheads would pay her a fortune to do whatever she wants to do. Bill, Albany, New Hampshire. As you have repeatedly said, only citizens can vote in a federal election. The state of California leaves a progressive movement and indicates they will not only allow non-citizens to vote, but will encourage it. That is not true. Okay, state of California, if they allow non-citizens to vote, whoever allows that can be prosecuted in a court of law. Will they be? I don't know, but you got evidence, you bring the evidence in. It's a federal offense. Remember that. It's way beyond the state of California. You do that, the feds got you. So you're wrong there. Do they make it easy to cheat? Yeah. If the state of California allows non-citizens to vote, which is illegal, which steps can the government take to remove those voters from the rolls? No steps. Okay? They can arrest the person who votes and who allowed the vote. And then you would assume they would haul in all of the people registered and look at it. So that's what would happen. That's why, people you're on the internet and you're hearing all this garbage, and 90% of it is ridiculous. Susan from Monticello, Indiana. I have a friend who says at her age, 75, the outcome of the election won't make any difference in her life. All right, well, so what? Is she a patriot or not? If she loves her country, her life is really secondary to voting to help your country, right? So there comes a point where if it's all about you, which it is for perhaps a majority of we Americans, then you're not a patriot because it's all about you. The United States of you. I love these kind of people, but they never present themselves to me because they know they're going to get mocked in a nice way. Isn't this fun so far? I hope you're enjoying it. I am. David, Chesterfield, Missouri. Will America ever get back to being an undivided country? No. No. And there's two reasons why. The education system is sharply left liberal, and I don't expect that to change. So the teachers of tomorrow are being trained in the universities of today, and the universities of today are bad, very leftist. So when you get the urchins in, and what they're hearing is a bunch of garbage from very liberal instructors, they're going to incorporate that unless they have strong parents. And even if they do have strong parents, you go to college, you send the urchin to college, hey, anything can happen. A lot of peer pressure. So no, I do not expect us to be the kumbaya country, unless there's a war or something like that. I mean, 9/11, we all came together. I do expect a charismatic leader to emerge, and I may not see it in my lifetime, but I do expect someone to emerge that will be acceptable to most Americans. It would be a hero politician rising up. I do expect that to happen. Harold, Tucson, Arizona. If Zelensky refuses to negotiate, Donald Trump has indicated he would cut off American military aid to Ukraine. I have not heard him say that, but possible. I haven't heard him say that. Another question is, would the American people accept Trump's abandonment of Ukrainian freedom and democracy? Some of them would. There's an isolationist wing of the Republican Party. Doesn't give a hoot about Ukraine or any foreign country for that matter. So some of them certainly would. I expect that Trump, if elected, will make a deal with Putin, private deal. Zelensky's not even going to be involved with it. And the deal will be, you stop and you withdraw out of everywhere but Donbass. That's the region, the eastern region that borders Russia, where there are a lot of Russian people who over the years have moved into Ukraine, but they're primarily Russian. They speak Russian. Their families emanate from Russia. So Trump will say to Putin, look, you do this and I'll open up the oil spigots and you can make a fortune. We'll stop the killing. You and I will get the Nobel Peace Prize, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. Putin is suffering. Now, he's not winning. So he'll probably make the deal. Then you got to sell it to Zelensky. And Zelensky doesn't want to lose anything. And a way you would do that would be to say to the big Z, we're going to have elections in these regions, and there'll be self-determination, and they'll vote for if they want to be part of Kiev or Moscow. And if they vote to be part of Moscow, it really doesn't matter. This is Trump to Zelensky. What does that matter? It takes a big headache away from you. It protects the rest of your country, and will give you a gazillion dollars to do it. All right? We'll bribe them. That's how it's done. And Zelensky, what is Zelensky going to do? No, I'm not going to do it. Because Germany will bail in a heartbeat. Trump will line up all the NATO people behind the vision. If Zelensky goes, I'm not going to do it, you can kiss NATO goodbye. Poland is still support him, but not Germany. They want the Russian oil. Very complicated geopolitics here, but I know the region fairly well. I haven't been to Ukraine, but I've been to Romania and Hungary, and I know Eastern Europe. Kamala Harris has no blanking clue. And Putin does not respect her, because Putin doesn't respect any woman on the face of the earth. And neither does she. And the mullahs, are you kidding me? The mullahs? They think women should just be locked in a house all day long. It's wrong, but that's the mindset. You think Putin respects Kamala Harris? With Trump, he fears Trump, because Trump will also have a stick as well as the carrot. Hey, Vlad, you keep this up and X, Y, and Z is going to happen to you. Because that's how Trump deals. But that's why I expected that Trump would be able to get a deal, not Harris. James, Wichita, Kansas. Do you believe Donald Trump will do a full-scale investigation into the 2020 election if he gets the Oval Office? No. I do not believe he will. Number one, it doesn't do him any good. He could do, I told you so, but in history, it won't matter. Number two, I don't think there's enough. And so he's going to be embarrassed if he goes a full-fledged investigation and there's not enough, right? I'd like to know where that Zuckerberg money went, and he could do that as a targeted thing. You say, look, I don't know where all this $300 million went in 20. And I want to know, and you should want to know too, so we're going to do a special task force to find out. That would be much smarter than a big coast-to-coast situation. Much less risky, too. And it would accomplish almost the same thing if you could find out that Zuckerberg really influenced that election in 20, which he may have. Brandon, Calera, Alabama. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, couldn't he fire special counsel Jack Smith? His attorney general will fire him. Yeah, Smith is, believe me, he's not going to be working. Look, Christopher Wray, FBI chief, bye. Head of the CIA, bye. Mayorkas, Homeland Security, Mayorkas, he'll quit. All these guys will quit, by the way. They're not even going to wait for Trump to get inaugurated. But there'll be a total revamp. And Trump will bring in his own people to run those agencies. So that's exactly what's going to happen. Sarah Cornelius, North Carolina. You say taxing unrealized capital gains would be unconstitutional. Yet that's exactly what is happening with property taxes. My home goes up in value every year, and I pay more and more in property taxes. But aren't I also paying tax on unrealized gain here? No, because it is not an income tax. You see, I know it's complicated. It's frustrating, Sarah. An income tax is what you make in the marketplace. And the government has a right to tax it. And William McKinley is responsible for that. Because before McKinley, who was around in 1900, there were taxes, but not direct income tax. Property tax, not an income situation. It's a local tax imposed by your county, all right, on property to fund schools. I paid my school tax today. And it was astronomical on Long Island. And then there's a general tax, too, instituted by my town, which is part of the county, not an income tax. What Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders want to do is to make all of our possessions income. So you have a house, that's income. You have a nice Mercedes-Benz, income. Art, income. We want a piece. Unconstitutional. Because it isn't income. It's acquisitions. And you've already paid taxes on the money that you use to get those acquisitions. That's double taxation. Out. Kamala Harris understand that? Come on. No idea. All she does is just parrot. Now, Sanders understands it, but Sanders is working for a bigger thing, collapsing the U.S. economy. That's what he wants. So everything changes. The whole tax structure changes. That's what Sanders wants. And the communists and socialists want. They want capitalism out the window. Okay. Kristen, Atlanta, Georgia. Kamala Harris promises to have Congress pass a bill to restore reproductive freedom nationwide. How is she able to get this done? Well, she can't. Because the Supreme Court has ruled it's a state issue now. So Harris can say that she's going to do it, and there could be a symbolic vote if both houses go Democrat, and she could sign a bill, and the Supreme Court go, okay, that's nice. You have no enforcement capability at all, because the states do. The only way that could happen is if 3/4 of the states were to ratify whatever vision Kamala Harris has of reproductive rights. That will never happen. See, I'm so glad you're listening to me tonight on this Q&A. All of this garbage that Harris and sometimes Trump throw, like Trump, I'm going to deport 15 million people. No, you're not. Okay? Never going to happen. But Harris, no, she's not. She's not going to do any of it because it's impossible to do when you have separation of powers. But doesn't stop her from saying it, because most Americans go, oh, yeah, I'm going to get $25,000 if I vote for Kamala. You know? Okay. Do you want me to explain why Trump can't? I should do that. So Donald Trump, we're going to have mass deportations. Okay. If you look at the law that is in place now, every undocumented migrant is entitled to a hearing. And that's called due process, because they're here. Once you step on, this is just like the abortion thing, the unborn. Once you step on our soil, you got all your protections, even if you're not here legally. So Trump goes, I want to deport those people. And they go, oh, no. And there'll be legions of immigration lawyers. Say, okay, we'll hear your case in 8 years. Because that's how long it would take. 14 million people, at least. What Trump can do is if you have a record, even a misdemeanor, he can round you up and boot you. Clean record, no. And even if you are a criminal, have convictions, you have to have a hearing. But the immigration court could fast track that, move that along. So when Trump says, I'm going to get these gangs out of here, I'm going to get this, he can do that. That's doable. It's not going to be instant, but you can do it. But for people who've been here 5 years, 7 years, they own a house, they have children who are American citizens, tough. Not impossible, but it would take billions of dollars to do it. And I don't think Trump will even bother with them. What he will do is what I suggested, have everybody register so the government knows who's here. And if you don't register, then you're out. But that would have to be a law. Congress would have to make that law. Okay. We got Gregory, Grinville, South Carolina. How many people do you think will vote in the election? I thought it was going to be less than 150 million that voted in 20. But the turnout looks to be pretty strong now, according to the ballots that have been mailed in. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 135. But it looks like there's heavy interest, obviously. Okay. We want to go to Dean in Denver. Now, I worked in Denver for 2 years. I worked a lot of places, and I'm so glad I did because I got to understand the rhythms of the country. Okay? So I worked Portland, Oregon. I would have known nothing about the Northwest. I worked in Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain High. Beautiful. Loved it. Dallas, 2 years. Texas, went to every county. Miami, taught high school. Boston, second home. Worked there, went to school there. Okay? So I know I've been to every state and every major city. All right, let's get back to Dean. Bill, you'll almost certainly go down in history as one of the most admired and best of all in two different fields, a journalist and an author. Which makes you most proud? Well, number one, very nice compliment, Dean. I appreciate that. I don't really have much interest in what history says about me. My legacy is in print. So I've made my fortune in radio and television, and I'm famous the world over for that, and I can do a lot of good things with that fame. But the 20 million books that people have purchased of mine are going to be there forever. And those are worthy books. The Killing books and now the Confronting series. And before that, Culture Warrior, A Bold Fresh Piece of Humanity. So you probably know this, but we put together a bundle for Christmas, all 13 Killing books plus Confronting the Presidents for a really nice price. Fabulous gift. If you care about somebody or you want to fill out your library, you have urchins, these are fun books and you will learn. If you read all these books, you will know more about your country than 90% of your peers that live in America. And if you are listening to me all over the world and you really want to understand America and how we got to where we are, which is not a great place right now, the Killing books are for you. And then we go overseas, Killing Jesus. You'll never read a better history about Jesus of Nazareth. Never. Killing the SS, the big Nazi thing now, it's why it drives me crazy. Because once you know what they really did, and on and on and on and on. Killing the Witches, the book out before Confronting, big bestseller, really is a good primer. That's the first book you should read, if you haven't read any of them, because that's the Mayflower. That sets the whole tone. And then you go right into the rest of the series. Killing England would be next after Witches. And it just stair-steps it. Anyway, Dean, I appreciate the kind words. Very nice of you. Dorothy from Wall, New Jersey. I believe the Electoral College is the most important policy detailed in Article 2 of the Constitution. It is amazing that our founding fathers thought of it. Two questions. Does any other country have a system like this? What is your opinion regarding the Electoral College? Well, you're right, it's amazing. But when you think about how smart Franklin, Jefferson, and Madison, they were the three brainiacs. How smart they were. They understood, because they saw it, how Boston, New York, Philadelphia could just override everybody else. You could see it. That's why they put the Electoral College in, so people in Georgia and South Carolina and other rural states at that time would have a say in it. So that wasn't out of, they didn't pull that out of the air. They saw it. And the Electoral College is brilliant. No other country really has an Electoral College, but a lot of them have what they call a republic, whereas you don't vote directly on every issue. You vote for people who represent you. Rick, Georgetown, Texas. Bill, how much weight should I place on the opinions of Republicans like Chris Christie and more recently John Kelly, who opposed Trump? Up to you. Up to you. Donald Trump's an easy guy to hate. He insults people. I mean, I've been a friend of his for almost 35 years. I've seen it, you know. But everybody, you take the good with the bad. But if somebody has a personal beef, then you take that into consideration. Deborah, Raleigh, North Carolina. What are the 3 most effective ways to educate the dumb voter? I was once a dumb voter. Okay, Deborah. I was enlightened by non-corporate media I was exposed to after decades of experiencing real life. Too long to realize the truth. There must be a better way. Number 1, it's not your responsibility to educate anybody. And always remember that people believe what they want to believe, so you're going to run up against irrational craziness. Is it worth it? If it's your family, it is. But if it's just Molly down the road, it isn't. And when you are speaking about politics, facts. And if you don't know the facts, you say, look, I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that up, and I'll get back and tell you where I found it. That's how you do it. Kathy from Anaheim, California. Why did the Obama administration want to make Iran a regional power in the Middle East? It defies logic. They just wanted the mullahs to stop exporting terrorism. And they felt if they could buy the mullahs off, that they would stop. Trump's done that. He's bought off countries that were doing bad things. Mexico. We got remain in Mexico because Trump gave them a favorable trade deal. And that's what the Obama people and Biden, they thought they could buy the mullahs. They're religious fanatics. You can't buy them. Scottsdale, Arizona. Joe, is there anything you see that former President Trump or Vice President Harris could do to reduce violence in our schools? Local issue. School boards have to hire security. That's it. Once the security is in place in any school, it's much, much harder. And I'm talking about locked doors. I'm talking about, really trained professionals. And there are always retired law enforcement everywhere who can do these jobs. Rick, West Lafayette, Ohio. Will Donald Trump, if elected, deem the Mexican cartels a terrorist group? He'll threaten. Depends what he wants from Mexico City. And that new president, that woman down there, is a socialist. He'll threaten. I'd do it. But I don't know if he will or not. But he'll threaten. Roy, Ellisville, Missouri. If Elon Musk were to lead a government efficiency program, what could he realistically accomplish? He could come in with recommendations to cut programs that are wasteful. I'd like to see that. I get a list and look at these people wasting this, these people wasting that. This is not necessary anymore. Musk is a genius in that kind of stuff. I'd like to see that. I mean, we waste so much of our tax money. Oh, my God. Kenny, New Hudson, Michigan. Why do campaigns use internal polling? Because they don't trust the regular polling. I use it if I were running. So would you, Kenny. Also, it appears internal polling is more accurate. Yeah, because the guy's butt is on the line. If you make your living polling for politicians and you're wrong, you don't work. That gets out there. These college polls and stuff, I don't care. Lou, Willoughby, Ohio. Do you believe the increasingly diminishing baby boomer vote, that means we're dying, will have a significant impact on our elections this year? Nah, they're all over the place. Vietnam kind of blew that thing up. The conservative boomers, liberal boomers, I think it's kind of evenly divided. Reading, Pennsylvania, where Trump is tonight. Brian, if former President Trump secures re-election, is there a chance Democrats do not vote to certify him? No, there is no chance. I know it's all over the internet. I know it. Why are you guys wasting your time there? Tony, West Hazelton, Pennsylvania. Now, I started my career in Scranton. I didn't know the Biden family. I was at Channel 16, WNEP TV. And West Hazelton was in our market. That was way back. Can a presidential candidate pick a former two-term president as his or her vice president? Yes. But that would never happen. Because the president got assassinated or died from illness, then the former two-term president would be elevated, and there'd be all kinds of problems with that. So I can't imagine it happening at all. Tanner, Rancho Santa Fe, California. Got a good variety of questions here. We didn't get too many from abroad because we have a lot of concierge or premium members living overseas. I don't know, maybe it was so it's 9 o'clock here. That means it's 2 a.m. in Europe. Middle East, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. So that's probably what's going on. So I got Tanner, right? Regardless of who wins the election, how can we as a nation move beyond divisive rhetoric and political strategies that fuel division to focus on solutions that would improve the lives of all citizens? Well, I don't think that's going to happen because of the corrupt media. So the media has lost all credibility. And this will be my last answer to you guys. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know, bill@BillO'Reilly.com, bill@BillO'Reilly.com. It says, if there's something you can do better on these Q&As, let me know. And we'll because my staff doesn't know which ones I'm going to pick. So we don't want to illustrate. It's just a conversation between me and you. All right, so corrupt media. So here's what we got. And this is very interesting because the media is the primary driver of the hate in America. And I have a message of the day. You can check it out after you leave us here on the Q&A that says just that. So what you had 27 years ago in 1996, so that would be 28 years ago, was a brand new television media based on technology, 24 hours a day. That was where I got in cable news. Before that, I was in linear news. I worked for ABC, CBS, and I anchored Inside Edition and made it a fabulous success. And they earned billions of dollars. Still on the air, Inside Edition. So then I went to Harvard, got a master's in public administration, and up there I knew the technology was developing, that there was going to be, just like radio, 24-hour news on television. So I designed the O'Reilly factor, and Roger Ailes, the guy who was running Fox, hired me. He didn't even ask to see. I said, here, I got a 10-page. He goes, I know what you can do. He saw what I did with Inside Edition. All right, turn that thing around. David Frost is the first anchor. David was drinking a lot of wine, couldn't cut it. I stepped in. Rest is history, as they say. So, in the beginning of cable news, there was just CNN. And CNN was pretty straight. It leaned left, but it wasn't crazy left. Larry King was their big star. You'll remember maybe if you're a certain age. And then NBC said, we can do this. So he started CNBC, the financial network, and MSNBC. And when they started MSNBC, it wasn't crazy left. It was tilted that way, but it wasn't crazy. Then Fox comes on and it tilts right. But the factor had 60% conservative, 20 liberal, 20 independent. That's what our research showed. And everybody watched at one time or another. They made so much money off the O'Reilly factor because if you wanted to buy an advertisement on the factor, you had to buy 6 other Fox News shows, commercials on 6 other shows. And, money was pouring in. That's when the network said, okay, well, we can't be conservative because we hate conservatives, but we can be liberal. Boom. CNN and MSNBC went left. And then Trump came on the scene and it all blew up. But now it's got an 80% disapproval rating. So I think it's 75 to 80% of Americans don't trust television news. I don't trust it because they just speak to the choir. They want you to watch them, and the way they get it is not through skill, not through good debate, not through good interviewing skills. Tell you what you want to hear. So I'm glad I'm out of there because I could never do that in a million years. I'm a reporter first. Okay? I report, I analyze on the facts. So now we've built the most successful independent news agency in the world. I just got the latest for it. 110 million views on our stuff over the last couple of months. 110 million everywhere. And that's going to get bigger because no matter who wins the election, a lot of people are going to get fed up with the media. They're going to walk away. Thank you very much for being premium and concierge members. You know, we couldn't do this if you weren't with us. That's absolutely true. So we really are very grateful. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, name and town. And we will see you on Wednesday. I will be on the first and News Nation with election stuff on Tuesday evening. Thanks again.